morning, gang. So today we're going to talk about solving and resolving your challenges. So before we get really far into the PowerPoint, let's talk in general about that. So typically when you have a challenge to resolve, the first place you're probably going to go is your manual. So what is a manual designed for here at Money Tree? Well, the manual is designed to give you direction and guidance when stuck in a challenge. The manual is also designed to teach you step-by-step procedures on how to do something in the software or how to do a step-by-step procedure for your department. The manual, however, is just a starting point. Without a few other key components like knowledge of Money Tree billing and knowledge of the insurance industry, and without a little common sense, the manual doesn't work on its own. So with that being said, let's talk a little more about how Money Tree resolves challenges as a team. So, solving your challenge. We just talked about the manual. That's one way. You can ask your lead for help, and you can use your knowledge and your common sense to aid you along with the manual. So, let's talk about your lead. You will go to your lead for a few different challenges. One of them might be a technical issue. So if it's a technical issue, they will most likely simply give you the answer. If it's a gray area and their answer could be a little different than your answer, they're most likely going to ask you what you think is best. What would you do in this situation? And then they will approve that or guide you in a different direction. Or they're going to lead you to your manual and tell you something to the effect of, I know it doesn't say it exactly like this in the manual, but this situation would fall under this area in your manual. Go ahead and use these steps. So how does a lead decide what answers to give you? First they say, is this the best way to serve our customer? Then they say to themselves, will this affect another department at Money Tree? And then they say, is this the most effective cost and time solution? So they, prior to giving you an answer in most areas, they have to think about these three components. Are we serving our customers? Does it affect another department? And is this the best solution to save time and money? So that's kind of the way your lead is going to answer any of your questions. So let's go on to how does knowledge affect your situation here at Money Tree, your challenge. All of us have varying degrees of knowledge, right? Because some of us have been here 6 months, some of us have been here a year, some of us have been doing insurance billing for 20 years. So there's a lot of factors that come into using knowledge to make your decisions. But remember, knowledge combined with the manual is the key component there. Things like patterns are also good. Your knowledge will allow you to pick up patterns. So say you are in the deposit department and you're entering a deposit and you notice that the prior claim was denied for max benefits, and now the claim you're getting now is paid, and then the next one gets denied for max benefits, and then the next one gets paid. Well, your knowledge would tell you, your manual would tell you, here's what you do with max benefits, here's what you do with a paid claim. However, if you look at the pattern of what's happening in the account, you will notice that that seems very odd for the insurance industry, to max a line and then pay a line and then max a line and then pay a line. So those are the kind of things combined with your manual that your knowledge helps you notice. And then of course, you are gonna have to make the same discernment as your lead would. How do I resolve this? I can either ask my lead, or I can try and resolve it on my own, if I feel confident in that, and if that's allowed as part of my manual. If that is, remember the things you need to ask yourself when making that decision. Is this the best way to serve our customer? Will this affect another department at Money Tree? And is this cost and time effective solution? So if you can't decide if those three things are affected by your decision, you do need to ask your lead for help. But typically your knowledge will help you along with the manual in most situations. Then there is common sense. So the definition of common sense in the dictionary is good sense and sound judgment in practical matters. So once again, that combined with your manual is a good challenge solution tool. Sometimes your manual alone, in fact, a lot of times your manual alone is not always the answer. So when does common sense come into play? Well, my first answer is always, but typically it's gonna come into play when reviewing your manual. It comes into play for a lot of our departments when they're on the phone with insurance companies, because somebody on the other end of that call may just be reading out of a manual. They may just be reading something off their screen. So remember to use a little common sense when getting answers from an insurance company. Does that make sense with what you know from the past? Does that make sense with your knowledge? Does that answer really make sense? And if it doesn't, ask them again. Ask good questions. Ask them, are you sure? Because here's what I know. And sometimes you have to guide those reps at the insurance company so that you can get the right answer. Common sense also comes into play when we're dealing with our chiropractic software. So sometimes things aren't working right in the software, or sometimes you see those patterns like we talked about earlier. So remember to watch for those things and use a little common sense. Once again, your manual doesn't, well, first of all, it can't have every single step of your job in the manual. And secondly, it's our industry is ever changing and evolving. So the manual may need to be updated, and you guys who are doing the daily work and daily tasks sometimes are the only people that come across the changes. So letting your lead know about something is pertinent. And we'll go ahead and get that changed in the manual. But so what I like to say is that if you think something isn't right, it's probably not. Most of you have been doing this long enough to know that if you feel like something's not right, or if you feel like you didn't get the right answer from that rep at Blue Cross Blue Shield, you probably didn't. So that is what I wanted to talk about today, is just remind everybody that we do our best to keep those manuals updated, and not everything can totally be in your manual verbatim, but they are an excellent resource for you 90% of the time. So with that being said, I am going to give out a hug. So I want to give a hug to Rachel. Rachel, back in July, was the first deposit person to be willing and gracious enough to go on our new production scale. She was excited. She thought it would be great. She was willing to try it out for all of us. So Rachel has always been a team player here. I think everyone knows that. And none of us in the deposit department would have gotten to where we are had Rachel not been willing to step out and essentially do something for the team and go ahead and go on that production pay and that production scale, not knowing what it was going to be like, but willing to test it out and try it with us. So thanks, Rachel, for doing that. So that's it for today, gang. See you soon.